Are you interested in becoming a commercial truck driver? Well, you're in the right place, because I will tell you my story of how I became a truck driver and the path I took to get there. So first things first, we need to figure out if you're even qualified of becoming a truck driver. And it's pretty simple. Just go to Google on the search bar, type in what are the qualifications of becoming a truck driver, and hit enter. And if you scroll down, there's two sections. If you look at the bottom one, that one is more right. Basic requirements of becoming a truck driver: must be 21 if you want to drive out of your state. You could be 18 and drive only inside your state. And you must speak English. You must understand when somebody's calling you. You must understand when you're calling somebody, scheduling appointments and things like that. When you're talking to DOT, which is Department of Transportation. Those are the cops that pull commercial vehicles over and other vehicles too. You must be able to safely operate the truck, equipment, trailer, and you must be physically qualified to drive a commercial vehicle. That's basically it. The physical qualification, it's like super easy. I don't know. I've seen some people driving that probably shouldn't be driving, but somehow they pass their physical, which is surprising to me. Let's just say you're qualified of becoming a truck driver. Well, what do you do next? Well, the next process is a permit. To get a permit, before you get a permit, you need to get a physical. And it's a simple process. You go to Google Maps, you type in, you hover over the city where you live, and you type in DOT physical. And then it'll give you a list of all these clinics. There's one right here that's for $50. In 1 hour, they'll get you out. It's pretty low bar, to pass that test. So most people should be okay. So what I personally did is I studied for the permit before I even did the paperwork. I did my physical, then went home. I studied for a few weeks. Well, I did go to DMV. I got the handbook, and you need to read the handbook. And you don't need to read the whole thing. You just need to read certain sections. Me personally, I knew that I was gonna drive a reefer van. So I looked up in the first pages. It says if you're gonna drive this or that, then study pages this through that. It was quite simple. You don't need to read the whole book. You need to read sections of the book that apply to you personally. If you're training to be a fire truck driver, then you need to read this section. If you're ambulance, then this section. If you're the cash collectors, whatever they're called, then that's what you read, and so on and so on. So study the book, and then if you have an Android or Apple phone, you go to the App Store and you download this app. It's called CDL Prep, and it looks like that right here. This is the app. This is the app that I used to study for my test. This app will give you questions, and then you answer, and then it'll tell you whether you passed or not. And this thing saved my butt. I was doing all these tests as I was sitting in the DMV right before my permit test. And then when I got, behind the computer, I was so surprised to see that the questions on the computer were word for word that the questions I saw on this app. It was amazing. I was so happy because I knew most of them already. I knew how to answer them properly because I read the handbook, and I was just ready. I was ready. I was prepared. I was getting ready for this for a few weeks at least, for 4 or 5 hours a day, just reading and studying and doing the tests as much as I can between job breaks or when I get home from work and stuff like that. So I highly recommend this application. So after you get your permit, the next step is finding a place where you could train to become a truck driver. And there are two routes you could take. One is going to these big corporations like Swift or Knight, huge companies. You could look up the list. There's like 5, 6, 10 companies that are massive that actually do in-house training. They could probably even get you your permit in-house too, so you don't have to go to DMV. But if you go with them, there are contracts, and the price for the trucking school is like 5 times more expensive than if you go the second route, which I went. And then if you go with these mega corporations, then they will tie you up to a contract where you have to work for them for like a year or two, so you could pay back the money that they invested in you to train you, to get you your CDL. And trust me, it is not worth it ever. It's worth borrowing that money from your grandma or a close one, or saving up for 6 months, for 1 year, and then going your own way, not going to these big corporations, because they don't train very well. They're horrible corporations. I mean, all these jokes online are all about these big corporations, horrible accidents, big accidents, especially Swift. They're always, in accidents, and they do have a ton of trucks. They have like 20,000, 30,000 trucks on the road, but they don't train their truck drivers very well. I would personally not go there. I know one of my best friends went there, and he was tied to a 1-year contract with Swift because he was training with them, and he got his license through Swift. And then after that year ended, he quit the next day. He quit as soon as he can, because they hold you for 1 year and then they pay you pennies on the dollar, literally. It's so cheap. It's crazy. I don't know how people do it, but yeah, that's what happens. So let's just say you want to go the other route, which I went. I took my own money. I saved up, some money for this training, and it was $1,400. That's all it was, and it was just gas money driving to the school and back, and all I did was just, again, hovered over my city and then typed in trucking school. In the Sacramento area, this was the school that I attended. It is called Abilex CDL Truck Driving School. So if you click on it, it's in South Sacramento. I read a bunch of good reviews about it. Before, when I was there, it was called differently. Somebody bought it out, so they changed their name. But before, it was owned by a whole different group of people, and it was like really sketchy, kind of, I guess you could say. But they did teach pretty well, so I was happy. I just wanted to get it over with, and I already paid the money, so I didn't have a choice. I couldn't just back out and take my money back. That's not how it works. So that's pretty much what I did. The other thing I want to talk about was the fact that they didn't let me drive behind a wheel when I was going to a trucking school until the day of my test. It was crazy. I was just driving in their yard. I never went out on the streets. And it is super, super important for you to go out in the streets and try to, get some real life experience with a teacher sitting right next to you. Because, I had confidence. I thought I could do it. I begged them in the morning to take me on the streets, and they said, well, we'll teach you on the way to the DMV, which was like an hour away. That's where I did my test, in Stockton, California. So I was driving to the DMV for the first time ever behind, the wheel of a semi-truck, and it was just awkward. That's all. And I was scared when I was trying to, get my license and pass the test. It was not a pleasant experience. So, be very, persistent about going behind the wheel through the city, on the freeways, and so on and so on. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. I appreciate you sticking around to the end. If you like this video, please leave a thumbs up and subscribe. I will be doing a bunch of more videos in the future, talking about how to find good companies and what kind of equipment I like to drive and what I don't like and what happens in industry and stuff like that. So subscribe to my channel, and I'll keep you updated.